Hello, it's Kim from Wildcard Wanderer and welcome back to my channel. I'm recently in a phase where I get to create a piece of art every day with no pressure. I must say that this is the best practice that I get to do as an artist, where everything goes unplanned and I just get surprised with what I end up creating. I usually find these days very valuable because it is during these times that I get to create the artworks with which I am 100% satisfied, and I know I created them without pressure and demands. It might be so ironic to say, but personal art oftentimes matter to us than client art, isn't it? Anyway, today I've decided to paint a simple piece, and I decided to use just a palette of 12 colors because a minimal color palette is the most ideal in watercolor painting. I'm using this set of De Laroni Aquafine watercolors. I was inspired by this particular photo taken by my friend Magdalena at Blooming Doors on Instagram. Her photographs of doors are just too beautiful. I'll start by mixing warm yellow with cadmium red for a warm orange tone that will be the first layer of color on the door. I'm also using the Aquafine brush that came with the set. Just want you to know that this is not sponsored by the said brand, but I just want to recommend this particular set because it basically contains all the colors you need to start practicing watercolor painting. Did you know that some of the famous classic watercolorists only used 4 to 6 colors in their practice? And the best way to begin in learning watercolor painting is to use only up to 12 colors? Back to what I'm saying earlier, creating art for a client usually takes a much different approach. It often leads us to convert our creative process into a systematic and organizational procedure, which requires tons of planning, laying out of the composition, waiting for the client's approval, revisions, considering preferences which may not align with your vision, disapprovals, back to revisions, until you finally finish your piece. Then here comes the part where you get nervous of the client's opinions on your work. Okay, so right now I mixed in a tiny bit of cobalt blue into the orange mix to make a cooler shade for the more shadowed part of the door. I think the biggest difference between personal art and art for client is the amount of freedom we could feel in the process. Especially as a beginner, not all clients will ask you to create an artwork for them according to your niche. At times, they don't even consider that at all. I'm not sure if you can relate, but some clients think of artists as human printers, not as visionaries who can perceive their desires and transform these into tangible pictures. Very frustrating, but it's true. I continue with the painting by mixing Hooker's green with tiny bits of crimson and light red that came with the set. I decided to paint the whole facade with green because I love that color, and also to provide a pop of color instead of the almost monochromatic palette. It's also a way for me to showcase the color palette that I can be mostly identified with. I've been loving this color scheme a lot, and it's the same palette that I used for my New Day collection paintings. Yes, color preferences is also a factor in identifying the difference between personal art and client art. Some people buy art just because it matches their sofa or the whole design of their space. Where art is supposed to be something that conveys meaning and value to you, this kind of attitude can be disappointing. While color preferences is a matter of design, it must also be a matter of meaning, right? I just often wish that my appreciation for color aligns with my clients' perspectives. I continued with the painting by mixing cobalt blue and alizarin crimson to create a subtle purple to paint the grayish pavement. I started putting color on the shadowed parts and then gradually adding more water on the surface to make the shades lighter as I reach the highlighted portions. Maybe one of the obvious reasons why I enjoy creating personal art more is that I sometimes, or maybe always, encounter beautiful accidents. Like when the paint spilled a little bit, or when bizarre colors started to appear on my palette when paints got mixed up, or there were water droplets, or maybe when the result totally exceeded my expectations. I'm usually restrained from encountering beautiful accidents in creating client art because perfectionism prevails at most times. Yet right now, let me give you a little reminder to stop being hard on yourself and just go and create whatever you want. To provide more contrast on the painting, I mixed burnt sienna with ultramarine blue. I used it to define the lines and the textures. I then mixed it in with alizarin crimson for a bit of warmth in the brown colors. In my opinion, I think it is healthy for someone in the creative industry to try to impose our choices as much as we can. Even if these choices mean that we have to take risks no matter how unsure we are of the results, as long as we trust our guts and our vision. If I think it would be more beautiful this way, then I'd go for that, even if majority of my audience thinks otherwise. We better learn to say no on projects that might suppress our identity or might lead us to create something forced rather than desired. Also, don't be afraid to admit to a client that you cannot do a certain request, and instead refer the client to someone whom you know that could best accomplish it. I assure you that it's a very good, healthy, and friendly practice. Alright, I think it's about time that I have to conclude my somewhat subjective rants for today and continue on painting this little piece of art. I hope that you were able to relate to any or all of them. If you have something to say about it, feel free to express your opinions in the comments, and I'd be honored to exchange constructive discussions with you. Anyway, I continued with the painting by slowly filling in the details with color and adding shadows to create depth. I also decided to capture how I mix the colors for this painting because ever since I started watching painting process videos by other artists, I'm usually curious of how they mix their colors and how they achieve certain shades. So I thought it would be fun if I show you my color mixing process as well, in case you're interested. I tend to lean more towards warmer shades now, but I still try to achieve contrast by providing cooler tones, and there's no simpler way to do that than using blues, greens, and purples. That is why I often go back to painting with just a palette limited to 12 colors. In that way, I get to be more creative in color mixing, and I get to discover how to achieve a wider range of colors with just what I have. My favorite detail in this piece must be the broomstick hung on the wall beside the door. It kind of reminds me of Thomasina in Beatrix Potter's The Tale of Mrs. Tittlemouse. This particular animal character is very much obsessed with cleaning and tidying up her house. She would always sweep the dust off the floors, the furniture, and each and every belongings she had. She'd also rearrange her things from time to time. The last thing I did for this one is mixing burnt sienna with Payne's Gray for me to outline everything for emphasis before I proceed with colored pencils. I hope you enjoyed today's video and thank you so much for watching. Till the next one, bye!